What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony, let's jump in. Okay, happy Tuesday everybody, welcome back. In less than 24 hours, the possibility that Beijing is going to join Shanghai in lockdown has increased substantially. Late yesterday evening, in an evening press conference, authorities for the sensitive capital city announced that the 3 rounds of testing originally ordered for the residents of the wealthy district of Chaoyang has been expanded to include most of the city's 22 million residents. While a lockdown isn't a sure thing at this point, Beijing authorities will likely want to avoid what has happened in Shanghai, and if the decision is made to lock down, it will come early, hard and fast. Beijing would want to be a Shenzhen, not a Shanghai, Xi'an or Jilin. A prolonged lockdown of both the Yangtze River Delta around Shanghai as well as Beijing in the north would be a disaster. Indeed, the economic damage already experienced due to the almost month-long lockdown in Shanghai, as we have seen and as we will explore more later, is already sizable. Meanwhile, Shanghai has seen some stabilization in recent days, but with so many cases still being discovered outside of closed-loop management, the city is still very much on weak foundations, with real risks of new breakouts or case surges undoing weeks of sacrifice for the residents of the city. It is still impossible to predict when the city will start returning to normal. Shanghai launched another round of citywide nucleic acid tests this morning. While some parts of the city have seen modest loosening of restrictions over the last week or so and are currently fairly well supplied, for some parts of the city restrictions are getting tighter and food concerns remain an issue. The phrase 硬隔离 or hard isolation or hard quarantine has become a new term entering popular online discussion in recent days. Residents use this to describe the recent practice of barriers and fences of more than 1.5 meters in height being erected outside buildings to prevent residents from exiting, a policy which authorities insist is necessary to stop the spread of cases. State media continues to present a positive narrative of a strong and resilient Shanghai getting through the lockdown, with hopeful and grateful Shanghai residents enjoying the generous support of the country and the central government. Much of the anger, criticism and frustration of the Shanghainese is not covered in state media stories. Indeed, a video titled Voices of April, 4月之声, a beautifully edited compilation of real audio conversations recorded in Shanghai throughout April to pay tribute to what regular residents of the city have gone through, went viral on Chinese social media on Saturday. Then, within a few short hours, the video was scrubbed from the Chinese internet, provoking a particularly angry response from many inside and outside of Shanghai. On Sunday, 2 accusations were made that the owners of China's social media technology giant WeChat were changing the code of the Moments feature, a social network service within the app, to prevent users outside of Shanghai from reading posts by users within Shanghai. WeChat strongly denied the accusations, calling it fake news. The tremendous political pressure to prevent outbreaks is being felt by local governments, causing unintended consequences for the central government and, in some cases, poor policy decision-making. For example, on Sunday, state media in the country carried the story that the Ministry of Transport has prohibited local governments from shutting roads, service areas and toll booths without authorization, demanding that highways stay open across the country, suggesting that some local governments are closing roads and highways without authorization, out of fear that the virus might be brought into their local jurisdiction. And to give another example, incredibly, Baotou, a city of 2.7 million residents in Inner Mongolia, entered a form of lockdown yesterday after the discovery of just 2 cases. Next up, and before we move to the economy, we continue following energy security developments in the People's Republic of China. But quickly guys, as always, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the like button. It really does help, it always helps. And for anyone who wants to go the extra mile and help keep this channel sustainable so I can continue to produce this sort of content for you guys, or if you just want to show appreciation because you enjoy the content, My Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and crypto links are in the description below. As always, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for all the support. Regulators in Beijing have given the green light to 120 billion yuan, approximately $18.6 billion of investment for the construction of 6 new nuclear reactors. This is part of China's public plan to seek peak carbon emissions by 2030 and reaching net zero emissions by 2060. Specifically, under China's 5-year energy plan released in March, China plans to increase total nuclear power capacity by 20 gigawatts to 70 gigawatts by 2025. As at the beginning of this year, the People's Republic of China has 53 operating nuclear power reactors with a total capacity of 54.6 gigawatts. The plan is also consistent as well with calls from top leadership in recent years to have more energy self-sufficiency in the country. China's huge reliance on energy imports is a serious vulnerability for the country. According to the State Council, China's cabinet, 3 existing nuclear power plants in Zhejiang Province, Shandong Province, and Guangdong Province will each get 2 new reactors. All will be operated by state-owned power giants. According to analysts at Huachuang Securities, the 6 reactors are together expected to add 6 to 7.2 gigawatts of power generation capacity. Analysts with Caixin in a recent report pointed out that there are challenges facing Chinese nuclear power development, however, quoting a report from the Carnegie Nuclear Power Program, which observed that, quote, reforms to the electric power system, which could see more transparent oversight and pricing, might disadvantage nuclear investments, end quote. And, quote, investment in nuclear power could also be affected by China's slowing economic growth and the uncertainties in the establishment of an industrial-scale fuel cycle, end quote. And finally, we started with the lockdowns. Let's end with the growing concern for the economy due to this policy decision to continue to pursue and double down on zero COVID. The lockdown situation has hit investor confidence in the Chinese economy hard, not necessarily because the economy is definitely going under, but because it is now so difficult to make informed guesses about the markets in the coming months. As we saw yesterday, prices plunged in mainland stock markets. Today, Tuesday, China's benchmark Shanghai Composite Index lost another 1.44%, while the Shenzhen Index fell 1.66%. It appears that many investors are abandoning their bullish China bets, for now at least, and some believe that this will have a very lasting effect. Quote, this is not only making it impossible for many private businesses to survive, but also accelerating outbound immigration and quickly dampening willingness to invest. Once people lose confidence in the country's future, it will be extremely difficult for the economy to recover from the zero COVID policy's impact. End quote. The details of the long-term effects are still up for debate, but everybody agrees, however, that short-term pain is very much on the cards. Quote, it is hard to be positive about the economy or the markets in the face of increasing lockdowns of indeterminate length and intensity. Liu He's comments in March pumped the markets for a few weeks, but the Chinese stock markets have given up all their gains since then, raising the question of whether or not fade Liu He is the new smart money trade. And as I and plenty of other people have asked before, even if policymakers were to announce bigger stimulus measures and rate cuts, how would the effects transmit through an economic system increasingly held hostage to the current anti-epidemic policies? And how can investors, foreign or domestic, have confidence given the rising uncertainty of lockdowns? End quote. Yesterday, Monday, in response to the Chinese yuan dropping to the lowest level against the US dollar in 17 months, the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, lowered bank's FX reserve ratio. Financial institutions will need to hold 8% of their foreign exchange in reserve starting May 15th, lower than the current level of 9%. Also, yesterday, Monday, the General Office of the State Council unveiled guidelines to, quote, further tap the country's consumption potential, end quote. That is, to increase consumption for the economy, a serious issue even before the lockdowns. According to the guidelines, China plans to build a batch of warehouses in the suburbs of large and medium-sized cities to, quote, ensure the supply of daily necessities in case of emergencies, end quote. China does indeed need to rebalance the economy and boost consumption. However, a cynical observer may look at this particular policy suggestion and suggest that perhaps there are other motives behind this move than just consumption concerns in the minds of policymakers. Hey guys, I'd love to hear what you thought about some of the updates we covered in today's episode, so throw your comments below. Always love hearing from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.